My name is Donald, and for many years I believed I had the perfect marriage. I worked hard to provide for my wife, Emma, and gave her everything I could. We had a nice home, comfortable living, and what I thought was a strong bond. I wasn't rich, but I gave her love, loyalty, and stability. To me, that was more valuable than gold. But over time, I noticed little changes. Emma wasn't the same woman I married. She used to greet me with a smile when I came home, but now she barely looked up from her phone. Our conversations grew shorter, our laughter disappeared, and the warmth in her eyes slowly turned cold. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was working too much. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention to her. So I tried harder. I planned dinners, surprised her with flowers, even booked a weekend trip just for us. But no matter what I did, she seemed distant, like her mind was somewhere else, or worse, with someone else. The late night started. She said she was out with friends or had extra work, but something in her voice felt wrong. She guarded her phone like a treasure, always tilting the screen away from me. The woman who once shared every detail of her day now kept secrets. I didn't want to believe my suspicions. I kept telling myself it was just stress or maybe a phase that would pass. I held on to hope because I love her more than anything. But deep down, a painful truth was growing inside me, a truth I didn't want to face. The woman I gave my heart to was no longer mine, and soon she would prove it with words that would cut me deeper than any knife. It was a Saturday evening, and I was sitting in the living room when Emma came home later than usual. She looked happy, almost glowing, like she had been somewhere exciting. I tried to ask her how her day was, but she barely answered, too busy typing on her phone and laughing at some message I couldn't see. I stayed quiet, hoping she would open up on her own. Instead, she suddenly tossed her phone on the couch, leaned back, and smirked at me. "Donald," she said in a sharp tone, "do you know what your problem is? You're too boring, too predictable. You think being loyal and working hard is enough for me? Well, it's not." Her words stung, but before I could reply, she continued. "I don't even believe in monogamy anymore," she spat. "One man is not enough. I already have 3 boyfriends, and honestly, they make me feel alive in ways you never could." I froze. My chest tightened as if someone had just punched me. I wanted to believe I misheard her, but her proud, mocking smile told me otherwise. "You what?" I whispered, my voice shaking. She laughed. "Yes, you heard me. 3. And before you start your sad little speech about love and loyalty, let me tell you this. They all give me what you can't. Attention, excitement, fun." Her words echoed in my ears, each one cutting deeper than the last. I had suspected something was wrong, but hearing her brag about it so openly felt like a nightmare. Part of me wanted to explode, to shout, to ask her how she could throw away everything we built together. But another part of me, the stronger part, stayed calm. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman in front of me wasn't the Emma I fell in love with. This woman was arrogant, selfish, and proud of destroying our marriage. So instead of giving her the reaction she wanted, I simply nodded. "Okay," I said quietly. Her smile faded a little. She expected anger, maybe tears, but I gave her silence. And in that silence, she didn't realize I had already made my decision. That night was a moment everything changed. After Emma's cruel confession, the house felt colder than ever. She was still smirking, waiting for me to lose my temper, waiting for a fight. But I didn't give her one. I simply stood up, walked past her, and went into our bedroom. I opened the closet slowly and pulled out a suitcase. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the decision I was making. For years, I had tried to hold this marriage together. I had given her my time, my energy, my love. And this was how she repaid me, by bragging about having 3 boyfriends, right in my face. I didn't pack everything, just the essentials. A few clothes, my important documents, my laptop, and my watch. I wasn't leaving in anger. I was leaving in peace. Emma noticed and followed me to the bedroom. "Oh, so now you're just going to walk away?" she said mockingly. "That's it? No begging? No fighting for me?" I zipped up the suitcase and looked at her one last time. You already made your choice, Emma. Now I'm making mine. Her confident smile faltered for a second, but she quickly crossed her arms and laughed. You'll come back. You always do. You can't survive without me. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked out of the bedroom, carried my bag to the door, and left the house quietly. No shouting, no slamming doors, just silence. That silence was more powerful than anything I could have said. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away into the night. My heart was heavy, but my mind was clear. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life again. Emma thought my silence meant weakness, but soon she would learn that silence can also mean strength. When the door closed behind Donald, Emma stood frozen for a moment. She hadn't expected him to actually leave. In the past, whenever they fought, he would always try to talk things out, always beg her to stay calm. But this time was different. He didn't raise his voice, didn't argue, didn't plead. He just walked away quietly. At first, she laughed at herself. Let him go, she thought. He'll be back by morning. He can't live without me. Her confidence came from the idea that she was the center of his world. For years, she had taken advantage of his patience and kindness, believing he would never have the courage to leave. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She texted her friends about what happened, even bragging that Donald had walked out because she told him about her boyfriends. They sent laughing emojis, encouraging her to enjoy her freedom. But as the hours passed, the apartment grew quieter, colder. The usual sound of Donald moving around, the smell of his coffee brewing late at night, the comfort of his steady presence, all of it was gone. Emma tried to distract herself, but a strange uneasiness started to creep in. She called Donald once and again, but he didn't answer. She sent a message. Where are you? Are you coming back? But there was no reply. The laughter she shared with her friends earlier no longer felt real. She began pacing the living room, staring at the clock, waiting for the sound of his key in the door. But it never came. For the first time in years, Emma was left alone with her own thoughts. And deep down, she felt something she hadn't expected at all. Fear. Fear that maybe, just maybe, Donald was gone for good. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every creak in the empty house reminded her of what she had lost. And though she tried to push the thought away, one truth haunted her. Silence could be scarier than anger. Emma woke up with a heavy head. She had barely slept, tossing and turning all night, waiting for Donald to return. She expected to hear his car in the driveway or the sound of the door opening, but the silence never broke. When she finally got out of bed, the house felt different, too quiet, too empty. She walked into the kitchen, hoping maybe he had returned early in the morning, but there was no coffee brewing, no breakfast waiting on the counter like Donald usually made on weekends. Instead, the place looked untouched, almost lifeless. Her eyes fell on the dining table. A single envelope rested there, placed neatly where she couldn't miss it. For a moment, her heart skipped. Slowly, she opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a short letter written in Donald's steady handwriting. The words were calm, not angry, not cruel. Emma, you made your choice, and I respect that. I will not share my wife with 3 other men. I gave you my loyalty, my love, and my best years. But I won't beg for what you no longer value. This is goodbye. Beneath the letter, she found printed pages, screenshots of her messages, pictures she thought were hidden, and proof that Donald had known about her affairs for some time. Her legs weakened, and she sank into a chair, clutching the papers with shaking hands. She expected him to yell, to fight, to demand explanations. But instead, he had walked away with dignity, leaving her no chance to defend herself, no chance to twist the story in her favor. That silence, that calm goodbye, cut her deeper than any argument ever could. Emma tried to call him again, her voice trembling as she left a voicemail. Donald, please, can we talk? I didn't mean what I said. I was just angry. Please come back. But she knew her excuses sounded empty. As she looked around the house, His side of the closet half empty, his toothbrush gone, his favorite jacket missing. Reality began to sink in. This wasn't a game anymore. He wasn't bluffing. For the first time, Emma realized she had pushed him too far. The man she believed would never leave her had finally chosen his self-respect over her betrayal. And that thought froze her completely, leaving her staring at the letter again and again, with tears rolling down her face. By afternoon, Emma could no longer bear the silence. She called Donald again and again until, finally, he answered. His voice was calm but distant, as if he were speaking to a stranger. "Donald, please," she began, her words rushing out. "Can we talk? Face to face? I didn't mean what I said. I was angry. I was drunk. It wasn't serious." There was a long pause on the line before he replied. "You meant it, Emma. I saw the messages. I know the truth." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, just let me explain." Reluctantly, Donald agreed to meet her at a small cafe the next day. Emma arrived early, her makeup carefully done, her hair perfect, as if looking her best might help her case. When Donald walked in, he looked tired but composed. He didn't greet her with a hug or even a smile. He simply sat down across from her. She reached for his hand, but he pulled it back. "Donald, listen," she pleaded. "Those men don't mean anything. They were just distractions. You're my husband. You're the one I love." Donald shook his head slowly. "If you loved me, Emma, you wouldn't have bragged about having 3 boyfriends. You wouldn't have laughed at me in my own house. You wouldn't have humiliated me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I was stupid, I know. I thought you'd never leave. I thought you'd always forgive me. Please, Donald, give me one more chance. I'll change. I'll end everything with them." For a moment, he studied her face, searching for any sign of sincerity. Then he leaned back in his chair and said firmly, "You didn't just break my trust, Emma. You destroyed it. And once trust is gone, love can't survive." His calmness hurt her more than if he had shouted. She expected anger, maybe insults, maybe even a fight she could twist into forgiveness. But this calm rejection was final. Emma reached across the table again, desperate. "Don't do this. Please. I can't lose you." Donald stood up slowly. "You already lost me, Emma. The night you laughed about your boyfriends, you lost me." And with that, he walked out of the cafe, leaving her behind with nothing but her tears and the weight of her own mistakes. After leaving the cafe, Donald walked down the street with a strange sense of calm. His heart was heavy, but for the first time in years, he felt free. The chains of betrayal and constant doubt were gone. He had faced Emma, listened to her pleas, and walked away with his dignity intact. That night, he sat alone in his new apartment, staring out the window at the city lights. Pain lingered, of course, memories of their early days together, the laughter they once shared, and the love he believed would last forever. But alongside the pain was something stronger, clarity. He realized that love without respect is an empty shell. He had given Emma everything, loyalty, stability, and unconditional care. Yet she had chosen to throw it away for the thrill of temporary attention. That was her choice, but now he was making his own. Instead of drowning in sadness, Donald began to see this ending as a beginning. He had time now to focus on himself, to rebuild his life, and to discover the happiness he deserved. He started making small plans, joined the gym again, reconnected with old friends, and maybe even traveling, something Emma never wanted to do. He knew healing wouldn't happen overnight. Betrayal leaves scars, and trust would not come easily in the future. But he also knew he was strong enough to move forward. As he closed his eyes that night, Donald whispered to himself, "I chose peace over pain. I chose respect over betrayal. And I chose myself." It wasn't the ending he had once dreamed of, but it was a resolution he needed. Days turned into weeks, and Donald slowly adjusted to his new life. The pain of betrayal still echoed in his heart, but it no longer controlled him. Each morning he woke up, he felt lighter, as if the silence that once hurt him was now teaching him peace. Emma, on the other hand, faced the harsh reality of her choices. The boyfriends she bragged about were not loyal, not dependable, and not there when she needed them most. The excitement she once chased quickly faded. leaving her with nothing but regret. She called Donald many times, but he no longer answered. The man she thought would never leave her was gone, and she had only herself to blame. One evening, Donald looked at his reflection in the mirror. He no longer saw the broken man who once begged for love that was returned. He saw someone stronger, wiser, and free. He understood now that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't anger or shouting. It's walking away with dignity and never looking back. As he closed the chapter on his marriage, Donald knew one thing for certain. Betrayal may break the heart, but choosing self-respect heals the soul. And with that, he stepped into a future that was no longer filled with lies, but with hope.